My name was Amir. I was a prosecutor in Washington, D.C., respected for my unwavering ethical standards and adherence to tradition. But beneath the polished exterior of my professional life lay a profound emptiness, a void that whispered questions I dared not voice. Each day in the courtroom, surrounded by the rigid confines of laws and cultural expectations, I felt an insatiable hunger for something greater, something real. Then, in a moment that shattered everything I thought I knew, I encountered a presence that transformed my existence. It was a day like any other, a high-stakes hearing full of tension and anticipation. But as I stood there, something utterly extraordinary happened. I was suddenly transported away, leaving behind the cloistered walls of the courtroom. There, in a barren desert illuminated by an otherworldly light, Jesus called my name. He revealed profound truths, that my faith, cloaked in rules and rituals, had become a barrier, a distraction from the essence of divine connection. In that moment, I understood that I had been caught in a labyrinth of fear and obligation, far removed from the transformative love that awaits us all. I returned to the courtroom, but I was no longer the same. The familiar faces of my colleagues transformed into strangers, inscribed with disapproval and suspicion. As I grappled with the burden of newfound truths, isolation consumed me as I wrestled with guilt and fear of what my revelation might mean for my career and my family. The clash of loyalty and spirituality created a tempest within me. I had felt the stirring of something greater, yet I found myself entangled in expectations that felt increasingly suffocating. As I embarked on a secret quest for understanding, I searched scripture and testimonies, seeking solace among those who understood this silent battle. How could I reconcile my former life with the radical awakening that had shaken my very foundation? Yet, with every passing moment, I felt a calling, a summons to share the truth I had discovered, to expose the hidden war that raged not only within me, but in the hearts of countless others. So today, I stand here, not as Amir the prosecutor, but as a man reborn in faith. I urge you to listen, because what I'm about to reveal isn't just my story. It's a testament to a truth that could change everything you think you know about life and faith. Before we dive deeper, I want to hear from you. Where are you watching from, and what time is it right now in your world? Your voice matters in this journey. And if you find yourself yearning for a deeper understanding, subscribe to Truth from Beyond. Because together, we will uncover a profound reality that transcends shadows and illuminates the path ahead. The scene opened in a tense courtroom in Washington, D.C., a formal yet charged environment filled with lawyers dressed in polished suits, judges sitting high above, and family members anxiously observing. I am Amir, a prosecutor navigating the complexities of the judicial system, which stands as a reflection of America's intricate social and religious norms. The air was thick with expectation, tinged with the subtle tension of cultural diversity and the unspoken weight of tradition. As I prepared to present my case, I felt a nagging sense of discontent lurking beneath my composed exterior, a growing realization that something was fundamentally amiss not only in this courtroom but in the world beyond it. As the proceedings unfolded, I listened to the arguments being exchanged, focusing on the legal nuances as well as the emotional undercurrents that permeated the room. Yet amidst my professional focus, I could feel an unsettling void within me. It was a spiritual disconnection that I couldn't shake, a feeling that the truth was being overlooked in favor of a hidden agenda designed to uphold certain societal norms. The sense of duty I had felt as a prosecutor began to wane, replaced by a burgeoning urgency to confront the deception that was so often masked by the weight of authority. I began to question the very foundations of the justice I was upholding. Was it truly just, or was it influenced by a powerful elite seeking to maintain their grip on power? As my mind raced, I suddenly felt a wave of dizziness wash over me. In an instant, the world around me blurred, and I found myself slipping into unconsciousness. It was disorienting, yet, rather than panic, I felt a strange sense of calm. Soon, I was enveloped in darkness, but it was a darkness filled with possibility. And then, from that void, a light appeared. A brilliant, radiant light that cut through the despair. Standing before me was Jesus, his presence overwhelming, filled with love and compassion. As he looked into my eyes, a ripple of recognition flowed through me. I knew I was meant to be here. In that sacred space, Jesus began to speak, revealing truths that pierced my soul. He illuminated the spiritual war that permeates our societies, showing me the unseen forces that manipulate our perceptions of truth and justice. I was granted insight into the hidden agendas of the elite, how they leverage fear and division to suppress the awakening of humanity. The revelation struck me deeply, forcing me to confront the dissonance between the justice I sought to uphold and the realities of a world plagued by deceit and exploitation. I realized that I had been part of a system that, while well-meaning, often perpetuated more problems than it solved. As Jesus continued to share these insights, I felt an urgency swell within me. He emphasized the importance of breaking the silence surrounding these difficult truths. There was a call to action and obligation to speak out against the deception that kept so many in bondage. Each insight felt like a flame igniting within me, pushing me toward a path I had only whispered about in secret. When I awoke from that experience, I felt forever changed. The overwhelming love and truth I had encountered now demanded that I act, a challenge that filled me with both hope and fear as I consider the repercussions of my choices. Would I have the courage to confront the oppressive structures around me and advocate for the awakening I so desperately wished to see? The stakes were high, but the commitment to truth was stronger than any fear or doubt that threatened to hold me back. I am Amir, a 35-year-old prosecutor in Washington, known for my ethical standards and adherence to tradition. I carry myself with professionalism, always well-groomed and conservatively dressed, yet underneath this polished exterior lies a profound emotional void. Despite my respect for the legal and spiritual obligations of my role, a growing dissatisfaction has haunted me, a conflict that is increasingly difficult to bear. Each day feels like a masquerade. I'm trapped in a cycle of obligation that often leaves me questioning the authenticity of my own beliefs. Are these truly my values, or simply the reflections of expectations placed on me by family and society? In the courtroom, my demeanor remains composed, even as a storm brews within. I strive to uphold justice, yet there is a nagging feeling that the system I serve is riddled with deception. As I observe colleagues maneuvering through the intricate web of politics, I can't help but sense a hidden agenda at play, a manipulation of truth orchestrated by those in power. Each case that passes through my hands often bears the weight of societal injustice crafted by the elite, leaving me at odds with the very principles I hold dear. Often I would lie awake at night, wrestling with my thoughts and searching for answers amidst the silence. One evening, this internal battle led to an extraordinary moment. As I sat in my office, the weight of my thoughts overwhelming, I found myself slipping into unconsciousness. In that penetrating darkness, I entered a realm that felt detached from the physical world. Suddenly, a brilliant light pierced through the void, and I stood face to face with Jesus. His presence radiated warmth and acceptance, washing over me like a gentle tide. When he spoke my name, it reverberated within me with a power that felt like home. In that sacred moment, every doubt and fear I harbored began to dissipate, replaced by an undeniable sense of belonging. As the light enveloped me, Jesus revealed the profound truths about the spiritual war we all find ourselves embroiled in. He showed me how the deception prevalent in society fosters division and strife among communities, preventing genuine connections and understanding. The manipulation of faith for power, a tactic employed by the elite, unraveled before my eyes. I saw how people are led astray by false narratives designed to keep them compliant, often at the expense of their spirit and integrity. It was a revelation that shook me to my very core, compelling me to confront the reality of the world around me. Awakening back in my office, I found myself grappling with the magnitude of what had just transpired. The feelings of elation and fear intertwined as I processed the urgency of my calling. Jesus had illuminated a path not just for my own life, but for the lives of countless others who are struggling in the midst of this spiritual war. Would I have the courage to stand up and share these revelations? Would I risk losing everything for the truth I had finally embraced? Surrounded by the echo of my experience, I knew I could not remain silent. The journey ahead would be fraught with challenges, but the truth I had discovered demanded to be shared with those still lost in the dark. As I participated in prayers each day, an increasing emptiness overshadowed my spirit like a dark cloud. My name is Amir, and as a prosecutor deeply embedded in the legal landscape of Washington, I felt the weight of my responsibilities pressing heavily on my heart. While I was committed to my role and respected by my peers, there lingered a nagging suspicion that my devotion to the law and my faith might be hiding my true spiritual quest. Where was the peace I sought? Why did I feel so disconnected during moments meant for reflection and connection? In quiet evenings, after long days in the courtroom, I found myself tormented by strange dreams that stirred something deep within. In these dreams, I wandered through shadowy landscapes, often reaching an impasse, as if pleading for guidance. I encountered figures that seemed to challenge my understanding, asking me to question what I had always taken for granted. Each morning, I woke up feeling more lost than the day before, wrestling with an increasing need to confront the reality of my spiritual discontent. There was a void that no amount of prayer or achievement could fill, and it filled me with both dread and desperation. Then, one night, everything changed. As I fell into a troubled sleep, the darkness enveloped me once again, but this time, it deepened and morphed until I was gripped by a sense of impending revelation. Suddenly, I felt a flooding light approach, and there he was, Jesus, standing before me with a warmth and presence that eased the turbulence in my soul. When he spoke my name, the sound was full of compassion and understanding, penetrating the layers of doubt and fear I had long held. In that moment, I was simultaneously terrified and comforted, as if I were exactly where I was meant to be. In that sacred space, Jesus revealed to me the layers of deception that cloud our world, the hidden agenda of the elite that operates within the structures we trust. He showed me how our societies are so often manipulated by those in power, creating divisions that fuel conflict and suffering. Through the fog of fear, I saw clearly. The truth, so often obscured by dogma and societal expectations, was shining bright, calling for an awakening that transcends the confines of any one belief. I understood that our struggles were intertwined, each thread connected to the broader tapestry of humanity's fight against ignorance and division. As the experience faded and I returned to consciousness, the memory of that encounter stayed with me like a smoldering ember, igniting a fierce resolve within my heart. The void that had haunted me felt filled with a sense of purpose, an urge to share the revelations I had received. But a new fear emerged. How would I return to my life and speak these truths? Would the very people I sought to enlighten turn against me for daring to challenge the status quo? The spiritual war was real, and my heart pounded in my chest as I understood the risks involved in this new chapter. Yet, I was no longer willing to live in silence. The truth that I bore felt too important to keep hidden, and the desire to stand in the light of awakening pushed me forward into the unknown. During a pivotal hearing one afternoon, I felt an unsettling wave wash over me, one that would alter the course of my life indefinitely. My name is Amir, and as a prosecutor in Washington, I've always prided myself on upholding justice and integrity. Yet, on that seemingly ordinary day, a supernatural event unfolded before my eyes. As I began to present my case, an invisible force pulled me from reality, and suddenly, I found myself transported to a desolate, dark environment, a barren desert that felt both terrifying and strangely familiar. There I stood, surrounded by an unsettling silence, the emptiness pressing down on me like an unwanted weight. I felt disoriented, struggling to grasp what had just happened. And then, amidst the darkness, a radiant light broke through, illuminating everything around me. It was there that I saw him, Jesus, standing before me in all his glory, radiating an aura of love and compassion that instantly enveloped my spirit. When he called my name, I felt electrified, as though every doubt, fear, and lingering question I had ever held dissolved in that sacred moment. In the glow of his presence, Jesus began to speak to me with urgency, revealing profound truths about faith and the spiritual reality we often overlook. He illuminated the nature of the spiritual war we all face, the hidden agendas that cloud our perceptions and keep us shackled to a cycle of deception. He showed me how the elite manipulate belief systems to create division among people, exploiting those divides to maintain power. In that revelation, I recognized the discomfort I had felt in my own heart, the gnawing dissatisfaction I had hidden behind the facade of my professional life. I realized that religious structures, while meant to guide us, can sometimes distract us from forging a genuine connection with the divine. As I listened to his words, a sense of clarity washed over me, but it was paired with an overwhelming urgency to act. Jesus made it clear that knowledge alone isn't enough. We must be willing to step into the light and challenge the darkness that surrounds us. I've witnessed the traumas inflicted by division, the heartache caused by misunderstanding and fear. My revelation was not just for me. It was a clarion call to advocate for love and truth within a world steeped in confusion. I could feel the weight of this responsibility pressing upon my shoulders, urging me to summon the courage to confront the status quo. When I awoke back in the courtroom, the disarray of emotions flooded back. Everything felt familiar yet distorted, as if I were seeing my life through a different lens. While my colleagues continued their discussions around me, I was left reeling from the profound experience I had just endured. The fear of sharing my encounter loomed large. What would others say if they knew? Would I be ridiculed for speaking the truth I had witnessed? Each moment of hesitation only fed my internal conflict. But deep down, I felt a stirring, a desire to break free from the shackles of deception. This was not merely a journey of personal awakening. It was a movement that needed to rise above fear and division, illuminating the path for those still trapped in darkness. Upon returning to my reality, I felt an overwhelming sense of isolation enveloping me. My name is Amir, a prosecutor in Washington, and my experience with Jesus during that pivotal moment had changed every fiber of my being. Yet now, back among my colleagues and within the confines of my traditional role, I felt an acute disconnection. The hostility I sensed from those around me was palpable. Skeptical glances followed me as I walked through the corridors of the courthouse. I had been labeled a traitor, not just by some anonymous figure, but by faces I had once trusted and respected. The burden of guilt weighed heavily on my heart. I had devoted my career to seeking justice, yet I now struggled with the very weight of that label, heretic. It felt strange to think of the years spent upholding the law and the expectations that came with being a figure of authority. I had nourished my connections to faith through a traditional lens for so long, always believing I was on the right path. But my encounter with Jesus and the revelations of the spiritual war still lingered, a truth I could not dismiss, even as my heart hesitated to accept its full impact. In quiet moments, discomfort crept in. The internal crisis became more pronounced as I grappled with the harsh contrast between my traditional beliefs and the transformative insights I had received. While I had once reveled in the authority my position held, I found that authority was easily undermined by the truth I now carried. Those around me, entrenched in their routines and beliefs, pushed back against any notion that challenged their understanding of faith. I felt lost in this rift, caught between the man I had been and the awakening that was begging to take root within me. As I navigated this uncertainty, I started to experience echoes of doubt and anxiety about my future. Would I ever reconcile my newfound understanding with the expectations tied to my role as a prosecutor? The pressure was immense, And as I witnessed the effects of manipulation weaving through our justice system, how fear and deception were used as tools to misdirect and control, I felt my heart grapple with the reality of the world around me. There were countless people trapped in cycles of deception, drawn into conflicts and division, unwitting participants in a game controlled by the elite. My spiritual awakening was not just my own. It felt like a call to engage in a broader dialogue about truth and love in a world fraught with misunderstanding. As I took tentative steps to voice these revelations, I realized the power of sharing was transforming not only my life, but also the lives of those around me. The urgency pulsed within me, drawing me toward the belief that by unveiling the hidden agendas that perpetuate separation, together we could facilitate an awakening in our communities. In this transformative process, I felt the embers of hope igniting, a flame encouraging me to embrace the path of faith that Jesus had presented, even amidst the shadows of doubt and fear looming near. In my relentless search for truth, a hidden journey began. My name is Amir, and I'm a prosecutor respected for my resolve and commitment to justice. But beneath that polished exterior, a nagging doubt had taken root, urging me to seek answers beyond the confines of my conventional beliefs. After my encounter with Jesus, the powerful revelations had stirred something deep within me, a desire to explore beyond the traditions I had long accepted without question. So discreetly, I began to read the Bible, each passage unveiling layers of wisdom that felt both foreign and familiar. I sought solace in the accounts of those who had walked paths similar to mine, turning to testimonial videos that shared experiences of awakening and transformation. The stories resonated with me. They became lifelines in a sea of confusion. It was reassuring to see others grappling with their own struggles, and through their words I felt the beginnings of connection and understanding. Each person I listened to had faced their own form of spiritual war, and their journeys reflected battles fought against hidden agendas that often go unnoticed in our daily lives. Little did I know, this search would lead me to a clandestine community of fellow seekers, each yearning for liberation from the deceptions intertwined in our lives. Joining this group proved both a comfort and a source of tension. I found camaraderie with individuals who shared similar revelations and had faced the daunting fear of rejection from their families and communities. However, the lurking truth remained. I was continually plagued by the fear of losing everything I had always known. The stakes were high, and the thought of being cast out or labeled a heretic sent shivers down my spine. What would my colleagues think? And more importantly, what about my family? How would they react to my transformation and newfound beliefs? Every meeting felt like a double-edged sword. I felt an exhilarating sense of purpose among people of like-minded faith, yet that exhilaration was tainted by the sobering reality of the consequences of my choices. We discussed the realities of our spiritual war openly, exposing the manipulation of the elite and the societal deceptions that deter us from genuine connection with the divine. I found empowerment in our shared experiences and felt solidarity in confronting the fear that constrained us. Yet, I couldn't shake the feeling of an impending storm waiting to break. The potential fallout of revealing my beliefs to those who might not understand. With each passing day, I sensed a deepening resolve within me, an urgent call to embrace my truth and share it with others. I could feel the truth I was uncovering pulsing like a heartbeat, a reminder that this awakening could bring not only personal liberation, but also the chance to guide others toward their own spiritual freedom. Jesus' love and lessons illuminated the path before me, and I knew the risk of pushing against the boundaries of tradition was outweighed by the potential for healing and unity. As I prepared to step into this new chapter, I felt a profound sense of urgency. The spiritual war was underway, and the time for action was now. Feeling a responsibility to share the truths I had uncovered, I realized my experience was not just for myself. It was a calling meant to awaken others. My name is Amir, a prosecutor in Washington, navigating the intricacies of the legal system, but now I faced an internal conflict of profound magnitude. After my encounter with Jesus, the urgency to break my silence grew stronger by the day, The spiritual war that I had witnessed, not only within my own heart but in the world around me, demanded action. The hidden agendas manipulated by the elite were not merely political strategies. They were assaults on the very fabric of humanity and faith. The betrayal I felt from those I once deemed allies weighed heavily upon me. As I confronted my colleagues, I could sense their skepticism creeping in. They viewed my transformation as a departure from our shared beliefs, branding me as a heretic. But how could I remain silent when so many continued to struggle, shackled by the deception that permeates our society? The truths I had encountered were far too vital to keep hidden. Each day that I refrained from speaking out felt like an opportunity lost. An opportunity to guide others toward their own awakenings and help them navigate the darkness that sought to envelop them. I began to gather with a small group of fellow seekers, individuals who, like me, had experienced a spiral of awakening. In the shadows, we shared our stories and the revelations bestowed upon us by Jesus. Each testimony resonated deeply, affirming that we were not alone in our fight against the spiritual war playing out in our lives. As we revealed the deceptions we had uncovered, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. The energy of our collective awakening filled the room, and I began to realize that my voice was part of something larger, a movement intent on challenging the status quo and shining a light on hidden truths. Yet, even as I gathered the courage to step forward, doubt still lingered in the back of my mind. Would I truly risk everything, my career, my relationships, my safety, to advocate for awakening? The fear of backlash threatened to paralyze me, but I was increasingly aware that every moment spent in silence stifled the healing potential within our communities. The urgency of our mission became clear as I watched loved ones struggling, their spirits crushed under the weight of ignorance and division. I couldn't bear the thought of standing idle while deception reigned supreme. The revelation of love and truth I had encountered was meant to be shared, and every instinct within me screamed to act before it was too late. As I prepared to engage in this mission, I felt the stakes rise higher. The manipulation and deception that had become ingrained in various systems designed to control us needed to be confronted. The more I reflected on my experiences, the more I understood that the hidden agenda wasn't just a shadow lurking behind traditional structures. It was actively working to keep individuals from experiencing the fullness of life and love that was intended for us. I was determined to embrace my role in this awakening, pushing through the barriers of fear and doubt, confident that truth could prevail. The road ahead would be difficult, but the knowledge that so many were counting on us gave me the strength to rise and fight back against the darkness enveloping our world. In a symbolic act of liberation, I made the life-altering decision to leave my home behind and relinquish my Muslim name, embracing a new faith identity that resonated deeply within my soul. My name is Amir, and as a prosecutor in Washington, I have lived a life filled with duty and expectation. But beneath the surface of my carefully constructed persona lay shame and fear that had been suffocating me for years. Each day in the courtroom felt like a performance, a facade I maintained to appease the expectations of those around me, while internally I was craving an authentic connection with God that I had not fully experienced. The turning point came after a profound encounter with Jesus during a near-death experience, an event that opened the floodgates of understanding. I witnessed the truth behind the spiritual war that envelops our society, the hidden agendas of the elite that thrive on manipulation and divide us through deception. Jesus illuminated my path, offering a revelation that shattered my preconceived notions about faith and devotion. In that moment, I realized that my identity was tied not merely to tradition, but to a deeper, more transcendent truth, a truth that called for radical change. Leaving my old name symbolized cutting the ties that had bound me to past expectations and stepping boldly into a new chapter of life. The freedom I felt as I embraced this new identity was astonishing. With each passing day, I delved deeper into my faith, immersing myself in the teachings of Jesus, finding a profound sense of belonging that I had not felt before. It was as if the burdens I had carried had become lighter, replaced by a sense of calling that compelled me to share the revelations I had received. I knew I was meant to be an agent of change, advocating for awakening in a world steeped in confusion and despair. However, the journey was not without its challenges. As I began to share my experiences with friends and fellow colleagues, I was often met with skepticism and hostility. Friends turned into detractors, and many saw my transformation as a betrayal. The fear of loss weighed heavily on my heart. Would I lose my job? My family? It dawned on me that embracing this new path came with a cost, and I wrestled with the guilt of possibly abandoning the very traditions that had shaped my life for so long. Yet the deeper I ventured into this spiritual awakening, the clearer the truth became. I was called to illuminate the deception that kept countless others in the darkness of fear and uncertainty. Through it all, I felt an insatiable drive to expose the spiritual war we are all engaged in, to remind others that there is a way out. As I connected with individuals longing for truth, I could see a glimmer of hope reflected in their eyes, a longing for the same liberation I had experienced. Each story exchanged became a testament to the transformative power of faith beyond institutional confines. In those moments, I realized that the path I was forging wasn't just for me. It was part of a larger mission to awaken hearts and reignite the flames of love and understanding. Fueled by the revelations of Jesus, I stepped forward, knowing that the fight for truth and spiritual freedom was one worth pursuing, even if the shadows of doubt lingered behind me. Years later, I now find myself in a new city, dedicating my life to witnessing the transformative experience I had when I encountered Jesus. My name is Amir, and in the aftermath of my revelations, I made it my mission to share the message of hope and love with others. It's incredible to reflect on how my journey has shaped not only my life but also the lives of many I've had the privilege to touch. Despite the pain of loss from my past, an ember of hope still flickers within me, a hope for reconciliation with my family and my community that once felt so distant. The new environment I inhabit is filled with diverse faces, each with their own stories, struggles, and aspirations. I've found a community where seekers gather, all yearning for truth amidst the chaos of a world often filled with deception. As I share my testimony, recounting the moments that led me to my awakening, I can see the spark of understanding ignite in their eyes. It's a connection that transcends words. They feel the weight of the spiritual war we're all engaged in and recognize the hidden agenda of those who would keep us divided. There's a palpable urgency in these conversations, a collective grasp of the reality that we must confront the forces that seek to manipulate our beliefs and foster division. My past, although painful, has become a rich tapestry that I weave into my testimonials. I speak of the disconnection I felt while fulfilling my duties as a prosecutor, the internal conflict between duty and the longing for authentic spiritual connection. I recount how I so desperately adhered to tradition, unaware of the deeper truths that awaited my recognition. This vulnerability resonates with those who hear my story, as they too grapple with expectations imposed by their environments. Each shared experience becomes a step toward liberation, encouraging those around me to break free from the constraints of fear and societal pressures. Yet, amid this beautiful journey, the shadows of my past still linger, particularly concerning my family. I often think of them, the ties that once bound us now filled with tension. There's a longing to share my newfound faith, to show them the love and compassion that Jesus offers, yet I fear their rejection. Will they ever understand that my awakening is not a betrayal, but a broader expression of the love we have always shared? These thoughts tumble around in my mind, the hope for reconciliation battling the weight of doubt. The conflict feels like a reflection of the world at large, where spiritual awakening can be misunderstood, and those who pursue it often face isolation. Despite these inner battles, I feel fortified by a greater purpose. Each day I choose to embrace the truth that I have discovered and stand firm in my mission to nurture the seeds of awakening in others. The spiritual war is ongoing, But now I see it as a journey, a collective pursuit of love, understanding, and connection. Our world may be rife with deception and division, but my faith in the power of truth continues to guide my steps. My experiences have shown me that the path to healing and unity is possible, and I am committed to illuminating that path for others. I know the road ahead will be challenging. However, I trust that with each moment of courage, we can foster an awakening that transcends barriers, inviting all to step into the light together. In the midst of my life as a prosecutor, I always believed that my faith was a sturdy foundation, guiding my values and commitments. My name is Amir, and I've spent years navigating the justice system in Washington, a realm where ethics are paramount. Yet, despite my outward confidence, I was wrestling with an internal conflict that left me feeling trapped. The very faith I held dear began to feel like a prison, confining me within traditional beliefs that often suffocated my spirit. The noise of expectations from society, colleagues, and family overshadowed the quiet whisper I felt deep within, urging me to seek deeper truths. One fateful day, during a particularly intense hearing, the weight of my internal struggles culminated in an unexpected way. I collapsed, and as consciousness ebbed, I was thrust into a dark void, isolated from everything familiar. In that terrifying darkness, a blinding light appeared. Jesus, radiant and full of compassion, stood before me. When he called my name, I felt an overwhelming sense of love wash over me, dissolving the fears and doubts that had been my constant companions. In that moment, I was stripped of my burdens, laid bare before the ultimate truth. Jesus began to reveal profound insights about the nature of the spiritual war we are all engaged in. I was shown how the hidden agendas of the elite manipulate faith to perpetuate division and strife, keeping people shackled to a cycle of deception. It became clear to me that faith should not confine us, but rather be the key that unlocks true freedom. I saw how those in power often obscure the light of truth, using our collective beliefs to maintain control over our hearts and minds. The urgency of his message pressed upon me. I realized that I could no longer remain complicit in a system that perpetuated these deceptions. As the vision unfolded, I began to understand the broader implications of my awakening. The divisions and conflicts I witnessed within my community reflected a larger pattern observed across society: wars fueled by misunderstandings, political strife rooted in fear, and technological manipulations that further isolate individuals. My own struggles mirrored those of others caught in this cycle. The profound truth was that healing cannot happen in isolation but must come through community, understanding, and love. It was a revelation that compelled me to return to my life and embrace the responsibility of sharing what I had learned. When I came back to consciousness, the world felt different. Reality came rushing back, but I was now armed with a mission. I could sense the apprehension that awaited me. How could I communicate these revelations to my colleagues and family, who might not be receptive to such radical ideas? The fear of rejection weighed heavily on my heart, but the desire to illuminate their paths with truth drove me forward. I recognized that stepping into this new role would require courage and faith, and with each moment that passed, the urgency to awaken others gripped me. I was determined to show that faith, rather than being a prison, is a source of liberation and light in a world fraught with deception and darkness. As you reach the end of this journey with me, I invite you to pause and reflect. Have you ever felt a flicker within you, a whisper that there's more to this life than what meets the eye? What if the battles we face aren't just of flesh and blood, but a spiritual struggle woven into the very fabric of our existence? I have seen beyond the veil, and I urge you to explore this truth alongside me. Emerging from that encounter with Jesus, I realized the weight of the revelation I was gifted. It demands not just personal awakening, but a call to action. This world, with its hidden agendas and manipulations, is waiting for voices of courage, voices like yours, to stand firm in truth. The spiritual war rages on around us, and each of us plays a part in this cosmic drama. Are you willing to embrace the call and share the truth you've unearthed? I want to hear from you. Have you faced a moment where everything shifted, urging you to question your beliefs? Your stories matter and can inspire others who find themselves lost in darkness. Share your experiences in the comments below. Let's create a dialogue that fosters understanding and connection. If the message you heard today resonates with you, don't leave without subscribing to Truth from Beyond and activating the notification bell. Your engagement is vital in this journey. Together, we can illuminate the shadows and awaken those seeking the light. Join me in the next video, where I'll dive deeper into the transformative power of faith and share testimonies that reveal the extraordinary ways Jesus has touched souls like ours. My name is Amir, and I thank you for your time and openness. Remember, our search for truth is a path worth treading, and it often leads us to places we never expected to go.